You're listening to Season 2 of the So Cultured podcast,
where we delve into the science and tech behind everyday topics,
served with a side of piping hot laboratea.
We're your hosts, Liv,
Yaz,
and Taz,
3 girls with a passion for science and tech.
Before we get into today's episode, remember that all opinions are our own and all our listener stories are alleged.
We hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and let's get into it.
Just watch me break it. You'll swear you're falling into me, touch me. I swear you would do anything that I want to keep us awake till the dawn.
Hello guys, welcome back to the So Cultured podcast, and it is season 2. So we are so excited
Welcome
to debut
back.
our second season of the So Cultured podcast. So we just wanted to tell you a bit about what this season is going to be about, because it's going to be a bit different. So Liv, do you want to tell us and the listeners why season 2 is going to be different?
Yes, absolutely. So, hey everyone, we have missed you guys so much, even though it's only been a month. But hopefully, that gave you all time to catch up on any episodes that you missed from season 1. So, if you have listened to any of season 1, you will know that we were picking random papers that we found online to discuss, which meant that a lot of our topics were fairly niche. But the theme for season 2 is called The Science Behind. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to pick topics that you will all be familiar with. This might be things that you've seen on the news or on TikTok or anything like that. And we are going to break down the science behind these topics. So for example, today we are talking all about the science behind dreams, and a few more topics that we have coming up are the science behind personality and the science behind Ozempic. But don't worry, we won't spoil the whole of season 2 for you now. So that's all the spoilers that you're getting. But hopefully these topics are going to be of interest to many more of you and teach you guys some super basic but also really interesting science.
Yeah, we're so excited to have themes for this season, as we really enjoy learning the topics and then breaking them down into an easy to understand way for you guys. But don't worry, there is something that we are going to keep exactly the same, and that is our much loved laboratea section. We have enjoyed hearing your stories and we can't wait to react to new stories. So please keep sending them in, and you can do that anonymously using the form in our links page, which you can find on our Instagram, which is at So Cultured Podcast. And I mentioned that we're keeping one thing the same, but if you're an avid listener from season 1, I find that Liv's come up with this little trend where she's been asking us really random questions every episode. So Liv, do you have
True.
any random questions for us today?
Okay, yes, you've kind of put me on the spot there. But I'm not going to lie, I am actually prepared for this. I'm trying to make this a thing that every single episode, I'm going to start it by asking you guys a random question. Like, I feel like we should just make that a thing for season 2.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, then, right, my question is, because I don't know if I said this on season 1, but for any of the listeners who don't know, or if I didn't say it, I am actually moving very soon, which is very exciting. But I am trying to plan out everything in my new house, and I'm trying to figure out where everything is going to go. And you know, it's very hard to do it from scratch, but I've been trying to think about just how I want everything. So then my question is, what does your dream house look like? What are some like necessities or things that you would absolutely love in your house?
I'm not gonna lie, this isn't really like a house aspect, but I've always said I really want ducks.
Ducks.
Ducks!
Are you
There have
joking?
to be a garden with ducks.
But you also need like a stream or water. You can't just have ducks, can you?
Yeah, a little pond. I'll have a little pond.
Oh yeah, little pond.
Aren't ducks pretty evil? Or is that geese?
Oh, yeah, that's geese. I'm
And
gonna have
swans, they're evil.
Indian runner ducks because they can't fly naturally.
Do ducks actually stay put then?
Well, that's why I said I want Indian runner ducks because they can't fly, I don't think.
Oh, so you
Wow,
purchase
you've really
them
thought
and
this through.
you put them in the pond. And then you're like, stay here, kids.
But it's like keeping chickens, isn't it? But I just want ducks because they're cuter than chickens. Oh my god, that's another thing. I want at least 5 dogs. So it has to be like a
5?
spacious house.
Jesus. Okay, so Taz's dream house is basically a farm. Yaz,
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to be a bit more bougie, so give it to us. What's going to be in your dream home?
I do actually follow some pages on Instagram that are way out of my budget, and I'm always like really picky, like scrolling these multi-million-pound houses, like, I don't like this. The garden's too small. Wouldn't like this, like really just picky. But I think, I don't know, I would like to be bougie, but then I want a really big garden with loads of
Mhm.
flowers. I'd have to have a gardener
Mm.
because how would you keep up with it all? Maybe have some bees. I could start a hobby
Oh
of
my
like
god, yeah.
beekeeping, make my own honey.
You guys are really given health and well-being and
What about you, Liv? What's the dream?
a really big office, and then I would have a basement pole studio.
Oh my
That would
god,
be my
yeah.
dream, is to just
Oh,
have like a whole
sick.
basement, like a nightclub basically downstairs for me to do pole in.
Oh
That
my
would
god, that would
be
be
the
so
dream.
good.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine?
Like
Your neighbours would
I
be like,
want
huh?
yeah, I want oh, this is what we need to do. Season 2, I'm giving us a task, is we need to come up with a stage name for me, because I want like an LED light with my stage name, and
Oh
then I
my god,
want like an
yeah.
actual stage with my pole,
Oh
and I
my
want
god.
two.
I would love like a full-size gym like in my basement. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I want to take it back. Not the nightclub, a full gym, but an area
With a
for
pole.
pole. Yeah,
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be
that would
sick.
be the dream.
Okay, so speaking about all of this and how we are literally going to manifest these amazing dream houses, I'm going to put it on my vision board.
Mm,
Girls, we just have to dream big.
Yeah.
dream big. Yeah, I love it. And speaking of dreams, I think it's about time we get into today's science topic. Okay.
Woo!
Woo!
I wanna make it sweat on me.
Dreams, we all have them. Sometimes they're nice. Sometimes you wake up and think, what is wrong with me? And sometimes they are actual nightmares. So, to kickstart today's episode, I want to ask you guys another question. Oh my God, I feel like you might be fed up with my questions, but I want to know, what is the craziest dream that you guys have ever had?
Craziest dream you've ever had? Well, I actually didn't think I had dreams until recently, because I don't feel like I visualize things properly, which is a whole nother story. But the other day I had a dream where I was on holiday. I don't know what country I was in. I was in a pool, but I was in a kayak. And then they put like a wave machine on, and I was getting like thrashed out of this kayak. And then somehow my dad and his partner were in a hotel, but I had to climb like really steep steps, and it took me to like a mountain to get to the hotel. Like, it just, none of it made sense. And it was just like continuously like chasing something I could never obtain. I think that's like what was happening. Like you imagine a really massive mountain, and when you get higher, it's like really cloudy and mysterious. That's what
Yes.
these
Is
stairs.
this the craziest dream you've ever had?
Yeah. Is it boring? It's the only one I
Damn.
remember, guys. I don't have dreams.
Taz, what about you?
So I want
So you're just disregarding my dream.
No, sorry.
Okay, I'm not gonna share anything again. I actually feel sad. Okay, Taz, I'm sure. Go
Oh,
on.
no, I'm sorry. It's the way you were like, we're going to go up to the mountains and then there's clouds.
Anyway,
wild.
the point is, I don't really dream properly. So for this one dream, it was magical because I actually remember it.
Wow.
Inspiring.
I actually have such vivid dreams, to be honest. And
It's got to top mine. I don't think that's hard, but
well, one that was pretty wild to me, to be honest, was I was having this dream where I was like trying to catch something or trying to stop something from flying away. I can't for the life of me remember what it was, but I was literally on a mission, trying to stop this thing from flying away. And I remember just punching it with all my might, just trying to stop it from flying away. And there was this really loud bang, and then I was apparently satisfied that it'd not flown away. Okay, stay with me. I obviously go back to sleep, wake up the next morning, right? And I look above my bed, and I have two lantern lights that kind of are the lights to my room, but have lanterns around the bulb. And I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
I have punched a hole through this lantern.
Oh my
There's a hole
god.
in my lantern. And I'm not joking as well. I was literally looking up at this like, sorry, I had to have gone onto my knees and reached
Yeah,
up
like standing
to
up.
punch this lantern in my sleep.
Oh my god. Is that sleepwalking?
I
Yeah. Is that
I
sleepwalking?
don't know. Well, I didn't walk. I just sat up.
Got up on your knees.
Do you know what though? Like you're literally the first person to ever land a punch in your dream. Because you know how you like punching in your dream and
And it's just swinging.
you never
Oh,
actually land it. You actually landed it.
Oh
that's
yeah.
mad.
Okay, so in summary, Yaz, you don't dream a lot, and Taz, you do, and you dream quite vividly.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
vivid.
Well,
Yeah,
today we are
literally.
diving into the science behind dreams. So let's start with what are dreams and what is their significance in human psychology?
Okay, yeah, I am so excited for this, especially because dreams must mean something, like what is going on in our mind, especially because I don't really dream that often, but clearly you guys are having reoccurring dreams. So, like, what is the significance of it all? So, is it actually some kind of scientific definition for what dreams are?
Yeah, so the scientific definition of a dream typically refers to a series of thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations that occur involuntary during certain stages of sleep, particularly during a particular stage of sleep called rapid eye movement sleep. So, scientifically, dreams are seen as a complex interplay of brain activity involving various regions of the brain, which we'll get into. But this can include things like the cerebral cortex, the limbic system, and the brainstem.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think like I've always wondered though, do we actually know why we dream? Like, is there an evolutionary advantage to dreaming? Like, what is the purpose? Do we know?
hmm Yeah, I also had this question when I started doing the reading for this episode. And to be fair, I feel like you, like I've always wondered, like, what is the purpose of dreaming? Like, why do we dream?
Hmm.
And so the question of why we dream has not only intrigued you and me, Taz, it's also intrigued scientists and philosophers for centuries. Yet it still remains a topic of ongoing debate and exploration. So there are numerous theories that exist that attempt to explain the purpose of dreaming, but scientists don't agree on one single explanation. So some people think that dreams serve as a form of unconscious wish fulfillment or emotional processing, which allows the mind to process things that happen during our day and maybe even actually like help you come up with ways to solve problems that are currently ongoing in your life. And actually that point is super interesting in relation to a new study that I read about that I'm going to tell you about later. Um, but other theories also suggest that dreams might play a role in memory consolidation, problem solving, and learning by aiding in cognitive function and adaptation, which I think is really interesting. And something that I thought of immediately when I was reading about this is, you know, how, for example, when you are like talking to someone about something, or do you guys ever do this where you will think about something right before you go to sleep and then you're like, wow, I'm going to dream about that now? And then like you have a dream about it?
Oh my God, yeah. I've got a great
No.
example of
Do you
this.
not? Yeah, go on.
Um, so I went through a phase of playing Zelda on the Switch, and basically you like
Did
run
you?
through.
Sorry, when was you in your gaming
Oh
era?
no, I actually love like Legend of Zelda. It's so good.
Do you?
Yeah, I haven't played it in a while, but I went through a phase of like being obsessed with it, and I was literally playing it. It
Oh
was
my
like a
god, that is so
nightly ritual,
funny.
like going to bed, playing it. And basically, you run through fields, like you explore things. Like it's a great game. And I was literally like, I would say consistently dreaming that I was like running through fields and like having a great time. Like I'd kind of
Oh
love
my
playing
god.
Zelda because then it would give me like really fun dreams of like, I don't know, fighting
Oh
things
my
and
god.
stuff like that. So I'd recommend.
Interesting. Maybe your brain was like trying to help you figure out how to like do the levels in the game.
Maybe.
Interesting. Well, that phenomenon, I don't know why I can never say this word. To be fair, I feel like every episode there's a word that I actually cannot pronounce.
It's given like the
Phenomenon.
anemone. What is it?
Yeah, and then
Anemone.
Literally.
But I
Okay.
can't remember how Mimo
Phenomenon.
says it. Yeah.
That phenomenon has a word. Why can I not sentence
What?
right now? No, let me start that again. I'm sorry, listeners. I'm sorry. That phenomenon that we've just spoke about has a term, and it's called dream replay. So that whole thing is called dream replay. So it's the idea of where you like basically will think about something and then it appears in your dream. And the idea behind this is that it's basically your brain trying to help transfer something from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. So again, that feeds into the idea about how dreams can play a role in like memory consolidation. So they help you remember stuff. So maybe, Taz, your dreams were like helping you remember all of the different, like, I don't know, paths in the fields, so like you could complete the levels quicker.
That's quite clever.
maybe.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with it, so
Having said that, though, there are others who basically just think dreams are just a byproduct of random neural activity during sleep and they serve no purpose at all. But I actually like to think of them, I don't know why I'm saying this like I'm a dream scientist. I'm not, but if I was, I would like to think of them as all of the above. All of the above.
I do always wonder, like, when did we actually start dreaming? Like, who was the first person to have a dream?
Mm,
Was it that they just woke up really confused to be like, what was that? Or
yeah.
is it that it's always just been passed down? Like, people have known, people have been
Yeah,
dreaming,
but then there
and
had to
that
be
you're told,
someone
but
first. Like, there have to
but then
be.
that's like the chicken and the egg.
mm.
But I do think about this all the time. And like, when was our first dream? Like the baby's dream? And if so, like, what would a baby dream about? But scientists say that the phenomenon, oh my God, why can't I say the word? Scientists say that the phenomenon of dreaming has likely existed. I'm carrying on.
Say it again.
Phenomenon.
Yeah, you got
Wow.
it. You
Yeah,
got
well
it.
done.
Did I? Okay. I'm carrying on. Scientists say that the phenomenon of dreaming has likely existed for as long as humans beings have been capable of experiencing REM sleep. So I mentioned this earlier, and this stands for rapid eye movement sleep. So I think both of you just mentioned like sleep stages. And I think there's 4 sleep stages. So N1, N2, and N3, and then REM sleep. But REM sleep is the stage of sleep that is associated with heightened brain activity, vivid dreams, and actual physiological changes such as rapid eye movements, hence the name, and then also muscle paralysis. Now, while the exact origins of dreaming are difficult to pinpoint, evidence suggests that dreams have been a part of human experience throughout history, with references to dreams found in ancient texts, religious scriptures, and cultural traditions which date back thousands of years. And the oldest written mention of someone's dream details can be found in the ancient Sumerian text known as the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I believe is
Mm.
basically like a set of poems which were written on clay. And they detail a series of dreams from a superhuman king called Gilgamesh. And these dreams are basically interpreted by his friend Enkidu. So basically, they wrote about dreams that involved like meteors coming to Earth, and there was also something to
Mm.
do with like an axe. And basically, they were just trying to figure out the meaning of these dreams, which I thought was cool that they were like trying to interpret these dreams.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, this text is considered one of the earliest surviving works of literature, and it dates back to around 2100 BC.
Oh gosh, not BC and AD again. Like, do you guys, are you
Oh,
clear what that means? Yeah. How
I
many
am
years
now.
ago was
Yeah.
that?
If um that I can't answer. I now know it was before Christ. So if anyone's just joining us here in season 2, season 1, episode 4, I did find out that BC means before Christ. That's why we're laughing.
Now, why are we dumb? Anyway, it's a long time ago. My thing is like, when were the Romans?
Oh my
That's dumb.
I can't be doing any more archaeology on this freaking podcast. I can't.
I can tell, guys, that history is not our strong point at all. We're scientists.
Let's go back to the episode. We're talking about the Epic of Gilgamesh, where it was basically like a set of poems about dreams. Remember, they were trying to interpret the dreams, and in one of the dreams, it involved a meteor coming to Earth, right?
That sounds like a nightmare.
Exactly. So, another important thing I want to quickly discuss is that dreams can obviously be classified into several distinct types, right? And I think this is really interesting from a scientific point of view. So, really quickly, we have ordinary dreams, which are just like the usual dreams. Normally, you don't really think much of them, nothing extraordinary happens. Then we have lucid dreaming, which is where the dreamer is actually aware of the dream state and may exert some degree of control over the dream narrative, which again we'll touch more on later. And then, like you just said, Taz, we also have nightmares, and we all know what nightmares are, so I'm not going to go into that. But there are a few more different types of dreamings, but I don't want to bore you. So the main point is that overall, the diversity of dream experiences underscores the complexity and the richness of the human subconscious mind.
That is definitely so interesting. Obviously, we are a science and tech podcast. So, can we talk about the neuroscience and the biology behind dreams?
Yep, let's get into it. Okay, so the neuroscience and biology behind dreams offers a really interesting glimpse into the intricate workings of the human brain during sleep. So, earlier I mentioned these sleep stages, and I told you that one of the primary stages associated with dreaming is REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. This is characterized by increased brain activity, rapid eye movements, muscle paralysis, and vivid dreams. So, I don't know if everyone knows this, but when you're asleep, like all of your muscles are paralyzed apart from your eyes.
Yeah, it's like sleep
Like your eyes are
paralysis.
closed.
Oh,
Yeah, but your eyes like move lots. That's what this stage of sleep is basically. Now, during REM sleep, the brainstem sends signals to your cerebral cortex, which basically triggers bursts of neural activity that resemble wakefulness. So, like, it's like your brain is awake, but you're not awake. It's a bit weird.
mm.
And neurotransmitters play a key role in regulating REM sleep. Another important thing about REM sleep is that it's discontinuous, so it's chunked into about 4 or 5 periods that make up about 20% of our overall sleep.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually, because you spoke about being paralyzed and being in like a deep state of sleep. So I assume that's where sleep paralysis comes from, where like you kind of wake up whilst you're in REM sleep and your body's still paralyzed.
Maybe
Yeah.
because,
Is
yeah,
that not lucid
maybe. I'm not
dreaming?
sure.
Or is that different?
I was
No.
about to say that, but then I guess it is different. I guess it's actually, is it the opposite? No, yeah, isn't it not the
Yeah, I
opposite?
think
Because like
it's the
lucid dreaming,
opposite.
you can control what happens, whereas
Yeah.
sleep paralysis is like, yeah, you can't do anything. Like
Oh,
nothing
okay.
you're doing is changing anything.
Yeah, it's
Mm,
scary. But yeah, sorry,
mm.
going back to it. For the listeners and for our benefit, what are the neurotransmitters like involved in sleep? What are they exactly?
Yeah, good point. We should probably cover what neurotransmitters are. So, you can think of neurotransmitters as the postal service of your brain. So, they're basically
Mm.
chemicals that zip messages between nerve cells and they ensure smooth communication throughout your nerve system. Now, these messages basically help regulate everything from your thoughts and movements to your emotions and bodily functions. Now, when a nerve cell fires off an electrical signal, neurotransmitters are released into the gaps between nerve cells, where they bind to receptors on neighboring cells, which triggers a response. So it's basically like a complex language that keeps your brain and body in sync, which allows you to think, feel, and act. Now, like I said, these neurotransmitters play a crucial role in regulating REM sleep, with fluctuations in their levels influencing the onset and duration of dreaming. And if
Mm.
you think you've never heard of neurotransmitters before, you probably have, you just don't know because we've all heard of like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, all of that
Yeah.
things, and they are examples of neurotransmitters.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. And I think that's a good example of where we would have heard neurotransmitters from before, because I think sometimes words are just thrown around and it's so easy to just get caught up in all of the like jargon. But you
Hmm.
know how you were mentioning that dreaming occurs in the particular stage of sleep called REM sleep? Well,
Hmm.
can we only dream when we are actually in REM sleep, or can we do it in the other stages that you mentioned as well?
Mm. Well, yeah, that's a good question actually. Because initially during my reading for this, I assumed that it was only in REM sleep, but then I came across a study that was published in 2020. That, of course, will link below. All of the studies that we always talk about are always going to be linked below. And this study delved into this a little bit more. So basically, I'm going to summarize their words for you. This was mainly in the introduction, but the shortest answer is that dreaming occurs in non REM sleep as well as REM sleep. But there's debate about whether the quality differs. So, like, you can dream in both, but for example, like what you're actually dreaming about or how vivid your dreams are will be different. So studies show that there's a higher dream recall and longer reports in REM compared to non-REM. And then, like I said, REM dreams just tend to be like more vivid and maybe a bit crazy, whereas non-REM dreams might be the kind of dreams that you have but you don't really like remember. So you know when you wake up and you can't,
Mm.
like, you think you haven't dreamed, or like you can remember like little bits of your dream but you can't really remember the whole thing. So that's basically the difference. So yeah, you can dream in non-REM sleep, but it's just not as vivid or as like coherent.
Oh yeah, so like I obviously have really vivid dreams and tend to
Hmm.
remember them as well. So maybe yes, I have more REM sleep than you do.
Oh, that would be
Mm.
interesting to look at.
Yeah, I wonder like how do scientists actually go about studying dreams? Like how do we know, for example, what parts of the brain are involved? Can they monitor people's brain activity, for example? Like do you know?
Yeah, so neuroscientists have identified specific brain structures involved in dreaming, like I said earlier, including the limbic system, which is also known as the emotional brain. It's the region of the brain which governs emotions and memory consolidation. And then also the visual cortex, which processes visual information and generates imagery. So it could also be that there's something different about like Yaz's visual cortex, and that's why she can't like produce many, not vivid, but
Just
just as much like dream
visualization.
imagery, right? Because you know how you said you can't really like picture things that well. So it could be something to do with your visual cortex, maybe. So to study dreams, scientists can perform what we call neuroimaging studies. Now, neuroimaging studies are techniques which are used to visualize and understand the structure and the function of the brain. And there are several types of neuroimaging techniques. So we have structural neuroimaging techniques. This includes things like CT scans. We've also got like functional and diffusion techniques as well. And these are techniques that you may have heard of before. Like I think most of us have heard about CT scans. We know that they basically just like take picture, well, not take pictures, but they kind of like give you a snapshot of the brain's anatomy, structure, brain activity, and all kind of stuff like that. So I'm not going to delve too much into them today because there's a new and very intriguing method that researchers in Paris have recently explored, which is so cool. So it's something called, well, I don't know if this is the official term for it, but this is what I read: bi-directional communication during dreams. Sounds a bit confusing, so let's break it down. So earlier I mentioned lucid dreams, and this new method actually utilizes lucid dreamers in order to try and study dreams further or to try and understand more about like how we actually dream. So for very quickly, for anyone who hasn't heard of lucid dreaming, it's basically where you can sleep and dream while being aware of the fact that you're sleeping and dreaming. What's even cooler is the fact that some lucid dreamers are actually able to control to some extent what actually happens in their dreams. So they could like make someone appear or go somewhere, etc. Researchers are basically trying to use these people in order to understand more about dreams. So the particular researcher doing this is called Basak Turka, and she is a postdoc, I believe, at the Paris Brain Institute. And there are a few other researchers who are also doing something similar, but they have discovered a means to interact with these lucid dreamers while they're actually sleeping. This particular study, they had just one person, and actually, he had something called, what's that sleep disorder where you like are always falling asleep?
Narcolepsy.
narcolepsy. He has narcolepsy, and apparently people with narcolepsy are very, like, a lot of them, like higher than chance, are very, very good lucid dreamers.
Oh.
So this particular guy, he had narcolepsy. He was an amazing lucid dreamer, and he also happened to be an intern at this lab, because this lab, they actually focus mainly on narcolepsy and like trying to understand more about narcolepsy. And he is an intern at this lab, and basically they were like, oh, you're really good at lucid dreaming, like come in. I think it was his idea. He was like, I've got this study idea. So basically what they do is like get him to come in, go to sleep. They put electrodes in his brain, I think, or like just study, like set up cameras and like study his face. What they do is they asked him questions while he was asleep, and then the dreamers actually respond with muscle contractions, which are detected through the electrodes which are connected to their face. So basically he sat
What?
there, he's sleeping, they put loads of electrodes on his face, and then they were asking him questions. So they asked him whether he liked chocolate, and they basically observed him like smiling.
That's kind of
And then they
creepy.
asked him, yeah, then they asked him, do you like football? And he frowned, which could just be like a coincidence. Like maybe he's just like making random like facial expressions, and then they're like just assuming that he's answering the questions. But then when he
Mm.
woke up, they were like, is there anything interesting about your dream? Like, what did you dream about? Anything interesting? And he was like, no. Like, he started telling them about the dream, I think. And then they said, oh, do you remember us asking you questions? And then it like clicked, and he was like, oh my God, yeah, I do remember you asking me these questions. You asked me this, and this is how I responded. And like him saying
What
yes
the
to I like
hell?
chocolate matched up with the like him smiling, which is like
Oh
so
my
weird.
God.
So then because they managed to do that, they then thought, we wonder if he'll respond to like sensory like touch. So they got him to do it again, and they were basically, so I think the idea is they tell him before he goes to sleep, this is what we're going to do and this is how we want you to respond. So I think they said like, we're going to touch you, like, and however many times we tap you, we want you to, I can't remember what it was that they wanted him to do, but it was like to do something. So maybe to smile or to frown or something. And then basically, however, if they tapped him like 3 times, he smiled 3 times. So it was like they
Mm.
were actually interacting with him while he was lucid dreaming.
No, that actually is so interesting, and I would be like fascinated to like watch one of these studies or be part of it, considering I have like
Mm-hmm.
really vivid dreams myself. But obviously, you mentioned earlier
Mm-hmm.
about the different theories on why we dream. Can we touch more on that from like a psychological aspect? You mentioned neuroscientific
Mm-hmm.
theories about dreams helping us consolidate memories and process our emotions and things like that. But can you tell us about like
Mm-hmm.
the psychoanalytic theories?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, okay, so Sigmund Freud is probably the most famous scientist who contributed to this discussion. Have you guys heard of him before?
No, I haven't actually. Well, I've heard of him, but I don't feel like I really like can recall anything of what he did.
Mm. How about you, Taz?
Yeah, no, I've heard of him before. Wasn't he like the the guy who made like wild claims about like mothers and sons and them having like weird like incestual relationships and stuff?
Yeah, have you heard about this, Yaz?
Nah, I actually don't really know much about it. So can you explain what
Yeah, oh my
what Taz
God.
is on about?
Have you not heard about this? Okay, so he came up with something called the Oedipus complex, which is basically the idea that, so I think mainly it was like most people assume that it's, or think that it's just about boys, but it's actually about like kids in general, so boys and girls. So it's the idea that kids have an unconscious desire that begins during the phallic stage of development, which is between the ages of 3 to 6, where they basically start to feel like a sexual desire towards the opposite sex parent and get hostile towards the same sex parent.
Mm.
I think I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the concept. I just didn't know it was a
Mm,
Freudian thing.
yeah. It's also like, have you heard of Freudian slip as well? I mean, that's obviously
No.
from, you've not heard of a Freudian slip?
I didn't do psychology ever. So when
I've
am I
heard of that though.
I feel like most people have heard, like, I feel like that's an everyday term. People say, like, oh, Freudian slip.
You probably know what it is, right? It's like, you know, when you I feel is correct me if I'm wrong, Liv. I might be wrong, but isn't it like say you're in class and you put your hand up for the teacher and you go "Mom" instead of "Miss"? Like I think that's a Freudian slip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've defo done
So like
that. Okay.
calling your current partner by like your ex's name, that would be a Freudian
yeah.
slip.
Okay.
Anyway, he's come up with loads of crazy theories, but he's often referred to as the father of psychoanalysis, and he developed several theories about dreams throughout his career. And actually, the Oedipus complex comes into it a little bit, but Freud believed that dreams were expressions of unconscious desires, wishes, and conflicts. And this is kind of a theory that we're quite familiar with. Like, I feel like we all try to like psychoanalyze our own dream. But today I'm going to tell you how this theory came about. So on the 24th of July, 1895, Freud had his own dream, which basically helped him form the basis of this theory. So he had a patient called Irma who was not doing as well in treatment as he had hoped. And Freud basically blamed himself for this and was feeling like super guilty, like felt like he wasn't doing a good enough job. Why wasn't he here helping her like recover more? And basically, Freud had a dream that he met Irma, his patient, at a party and he examined her at the party. And then he saw a chemical formula for a drug that another doctor had given Irma flash before his eyes. And this is obviously all in his dream. And he realized that her condition was caused by a dirty syringe used by the other doctor. So basically, he has a dream that this other doctor had caused her to like not be getting as well as she should be. And basically, Freud had a theory that this whole dream was basically his way of like relieving himself of the guilt of the fact that she wasn't doing
Oh.
as well as she should have. So Freud interpreted this dream as wish fulfillment because he wanted it to not be his fault. So like in his dream,
Mm.
it wasn't his fault. So that was like his way of fulfilling his wish. So this is how he come up with the wish fulfillment theory about dreams, which is that dreams serve a purpose of fulfilling a wish or fulfilling a fantasy that we actually want to happen in like real life. Mm.
Right. I thought you were going to say he came up with this new solution and then he like saved the day, but this is like the wish fulfillment.
Yeah, and he's basically like psychoanalyzing his own
Yeah.
dreams. And that's how he like came up with all of the theories around dreams. But one of the key components of Freud's theories about dreams was termed manifest content versus latent content. Latent content refers to the hidden meanings or themes behind the events of a dream, which contrasts the manifest content, which is like the actual storyline or events that occur in the dream as the dreamer remembers them. So, for example, that might be like you dream about losing your teeth. So, like on the surface, that seems to have no meaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Freud believed that the latent content of a dream is basically thoughts and feelings that are really troubling or
Mm.
unacceptable. So the conscious mind just represses them. So, for
Um,
example, a dream about losing teeth might have a latent content related to anxiety about aging or fear of losing power or control. So, Freud also proposed that the mind uses a process called dream work to censor or disguise the latent content of a dream. And this is done basically in order to just like reduce anxiety and allow us to continue sleeping.
that was such an interesting topic because honestly, I feel like I didn't even really know who Freud was or anything about his understanding. So I'm definitely going to go away and Google that. But I guess my main question for this is now like, so basically, we have all this knowledge and understanding, even if we don't fully understand everything about this topic. But what does this actually do for us? Like, why do we need to understand and learn more about why we dream?
Yeah, yeah. So understanding dreams isn't just about satisfying curiosity, it also has real world implications. So I touched on this a little bit earlier, but it could transform, for example, how we treat sleep disorders and mental health issues, maybe things like PTSD or reoccurring nightmares. So it could potentially offer new avenues for therapy. Plus, delving into dream research gives us a peek into the inner workings of our brain and our deepest thoughts and emotions. So, if anyone was listening, hoping that I would tell them exactly how dreams are made and processed in the brain, unfortunately, we still don't know that.
Mm.
So, hopefully, we'll be able to figure that out. It might even help us understand why we dream in the first place. So, hopefully, shedding light on our evolutionary past. And personally, decoding dreams can be a journey of self discovery. So it helps us grow and understand ourselves better. Again, that has implications in therapy. So beyond being a fascinating topic, studying dreams has the potential to change how we see ourselves and also our
Oh
place
my
in the world.
gosh. That was a lovely
Yeah.
round off. Thanks for that, Liv. And thanks for that topic because it was actually something I genuinely didn't know that much about, despite having very vivid dreams myself. So I actually really enjoyed this episode of learning about dreams or the science behind dreams. So, if our listeners want to learn a bit about everything we've spoken about today, obviously you can find all the links in the description. But I believe now Yaz has some very juicy gossip for us. So, let's get into it.
Yay, first laboratory of the
Yay.
season.
But I'm worth it, 'cause I'll slip into your dreams tonight. Oh, so give me your all. I'll take it tonight. I'll stick like glue inside your mind.
Right, guys, it is the first laboratory section of season 2,
Yay.
and I have the most exciting email to read out. But before I get into it, maybe we should cover what this section is actually about to any.
Yeah, so for anyone who's new here, our laboratory section is the more like chilled out, laid back part of our show. Basically, what we do is we just cover any gossip sent in from you guys, our listeners, about your experiences working in the fields of science or tech. And not gonna lie, guys, some of them from season 1 were absolutely crazy. So I'm very excited to see what you guys are bringing us in season 2 because I think I speak for all three of us when I say we did not expect the gossip to be this crazy. So, having said that, I'm
Hmm.
very excited for today's email. So, let's get straight into it.
Yep. So, what I'll do is I'll read it out. This one is a little bit long, but hopefully you can stick with me because I can say this is wild. So,
I'm
the email
excited.
starts saying, "Hey guys, before I get started with the laboratory and my dilemma, I just wanted to say how much I love your podcast. I listen to it
Aw.
every week and it is one of my highlights. And it's so nice to see women in STEM completely girl bossing the science world." I'm going to dive straight into the email. It says, "Hey guys, before I get started with the laboratory and my dilemma, I just wanted to say how much I love your podcast. I listen to it every week. It is one of my highlights, and it's so nice to see women in STEM
Aw.
completely girl bossing the science world."
Cute.
Now, with the tea. Now, with the tea, on your channel, we as listeners have heard about Professor Shenanigans, poo emails, and some UK universities lying in the lab.
Oh my God. They're a dedicated listener.
Literally. They then say, "I am bringing a different angle today, talking about my experience with volunteering and was wondering if you could help or give advice on my dilemma."
Ooh.
Ooh, okay.
So, starts by saying, "I am a marine biology student from the UK, and I can say, especially for our degree, getting the quote unquote experience is essential for any line of work. But something that annoys me is that it is so expensive to gain this experience. Being an intern
Mm.
or a volunteer somewhere can cost hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. I can understand they are
Mm.
a once in a lifetime experience that can quote unquote enhance your CV, but I am sure you guys and the listeners can agree that although they are amazing, it is especially hard for students to come up with this amount of money. With this in mind, I've got a story for you."
Yeah, can I just cut in there as well and just be like, I think it's like kind of ridiculous that people have to do this, because like usually that it says volunteering, but you usually have to pay for like the volunteering experiences, especially when you're doing like marine biology or like ecology. It's kind of expected that you do these internships to like have it as a thing on your CV. So I totally get where she's coming from, but I think it's so long that you have to do that.
Yeah, I don't agree with it at
Mm.
all. And I think it's not accessible for everyone. So it is difficult. But then this email says, like, goes on to say that part of my undergrad degree, we get the opportunity to take a year out and do one of these placement years, which is, in my opinion, also rubbish that the unis then say, like, "Oh, you can take a year out and then you still have to pay
Mm.
for this." Like, dumb. But
Yeah.
anyway, it says that they started their undergrad in 2019. So I was a year that was hassled with COVID, had online exams and no lab time. So this was some sort of godsend to actually graduate with my degree and have some sort of experience. Well, I didn't want to be in the UK, so I did an internship in South Africa working with sharks.
Oh, that's sick.
So it says that they contacted the man in charge, and for this purpose, they said they're going to use his actual name because why not name and shame him? His name is, but we are probably going to bleep that
Oh
out for our
god.
own purposes. So because of this, we want to cover our backs, so we're just going to call him A. But he had his own company called, but for the purpose of this podcast, again, we're covering our backs, so I'm going to refer to this company as AA.
Mhm.
And this project was working with students on sharks. And this is where students can lend a hand. And the company also had a renowned marine biologist. So it's safe to say that it was an incredible chance for me to finally swim with sharks and work abroad with incredible, inspiring
Cool.
people. So I got there and everything was fine for a few weeks. Myself and other interns went on safaris, turtle hatching beaches, and of course,
Aw,
did lots of diving, swimming with these incredible creatures.
I'm
But this is
jealous.
when it starts to get weird. It says, the first occasion of many, we went on safari with A. We went to his car, but I said to one of the students he seemed high. So now I raised the concern with the
What?
others, but how do you approach a 52-year, 6'5"
Oh my
man
god.
in
Oh
charge,
gosh.
accusing him of being high when we were all out together?
Literally. Oh my god. What the hell? Wait, so this is A is the guy in charge, right? He's the guy in charge
Yeah,
of all of the interns and
yeah,
he's high.
yeah. And like
Oh
you've
my
then
god.
clearly paid money to go to this company and your boss is high. Like in my head, like
That's
I'd get
mad.
it if someone was a vibe and like if that's what you're on and you all want to smoke together. But like that just does sound really inappropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's okay. Go on. What did they do? I want to know what they did.
So it says, so I simply noted it down to report to his colleagues
Oh,
later.
okay.
He passed my friend, let's call her Amy, the keys to his van to get her bag out. I went with her and we saw the van that looked like it had been punched, brackets, yeah, I know. And the boot was
What?
completely broken as if it was in a crash. We tried the
Oh
keys,
my
but
gosh.
nevertheless, the keys were broken off and inserted into the boot. I went
Oh my
over to
god,
A to
what?
tell him, and this is where he lost his with me. I'm not sure if you can swear on your podcast, but here we are. I hope it's all right. And then this is when things started to go south. So already it's
What do you
sounding like
mean
it's
this is
going
when
south.
things started to go south? It's already
It's
south.
already
We are
gone
all the way
south,
up south.
yeah.
Up south? You mean down
Up,
south?
down, down. Oh my god, no, I'm actually
Who the
rubbish with
hell
my
says
never
up south?
never eat shredded wheat. Never eat shredded wheat. You're right,
Oh
south
my
is
god.
down.
No, you
Liv.
did not just do never eat shredded wheat to determine that south is
Oh my god, I
down.
always use that. That's literally the only way I know it. I always use never
Same to
eat
be
shredded wheat.
fair.
Yeah,
Always.
for like east and west, not up and down, north and
Listen, there's
south.
people out here using their hands to see what's left and right. So never eat
Yeah, that's
shredded wheat
me.
really
That's
doesn't sound
me.
that dumb anymore, does it?
Well,
And you're actually laughing at me for using never eat shredded wheat, but you use your hands. Pipe
yeah,
down.
for left and right. No,
Stop. That's going to be my new
you don't know that
saying, like
south is down. What?
all the
You don't
way
know that
up
left is
south.
left. So what are you talking about?
No, stop. Okay, anyway, back to the email. It's going down south. Down south. Let's keep it with that.
We are
Up
literally
It,
south.
sisters who just like bicker. Like we actually argue like sisters. It's so funny.
or
Yeah,
it's just
you're
because some of
getting
the things we
pressed.
say, we got no common sense. Oh, I'm going to pride myself. I know my left and right and my north and south, so I think I'm winning here. Anyway,
Yeah.
back to the email.
Everything is right to me. As in right, right, right. I don't know what left is.
To the left, to the left.
Well, I think south is down, so no up. Shit.
You
Anyway,
don't
let's
even
get
know
on
what
with
you're
the
saying
email.
anymore.
Let's get on with the
Let's
email.
get
It
on.
says, he messaged me the next day saying he has CCTV footage of me breaking his car and his
What?
keys and wanted me to pay for the repairs, which he quoted me
What?
was 25,000 Rand, which are South African pounds, which translates to approximately £1,050.
Nah, show me the CCTV. Show me it then. If you
Literally,
got
how do
proof.
we have
Literally.
CCTV in like the middle of nowhere?
Maybe he's
Exactly.
still
So
high and imagined that happening.
Literally.
So it says, I replied
Probably.
calmly and said, firstly, I was not one of the people with the keys. He gave it to someone else. And how could I, brackets, a 5'5" slim built woman, practically destroy the back of his car? Also, we were on
Literally.
safari. How this man claimed that he had CCTV footage in the middle of nowhere, I would love to know.
Thank you.
After
Exactly.
this, yeah, she's already thought of this. After this reply, I heard nothing from him and I messaged his supervisor. Then it goes on to say, one of the master's students I was with, let's call him Connor, went over to A to talk face to face with him about this situation. But when we got to his, which was around the corner from where we were staying, he was apparently blackout drunk and passed out on the sofa.
Oh gosh.
Oh my god.
So not only has this guy been high, he's actually like blackout drunk, do it like
He's a
not
mess.
supervising. He's a mess.
Give this man a DUI.
Literally, he clearly has probably just like driven that car drunk and damaged it himself. But anyway,
That's crazy.
it says, we reported this to his colleagues saying we need to get this fixed because it is ridiculous and the head of an intern organization should not be acting this way. But then it gets worse. So, Liv, we're going more up south now. It says,
Okay. I don't know how much further we can get up south, but
it says the next day we needed to do a food shop as an intern house, and A would drive us to the shops as he was the only one with a vehicle in the house. He was swerving all over the roads, and we believe he was
oh.
drunk driving. He almost crashed twice, and when we got to the shops, we rang
What?
his colleagues to pick us up because we felt completely unsafe. The intern house at the time were all females between 19 and 22 years old, and he seemed like an aggressive drunk. We didn't want to say much. So they
Oh
got
my
picked
god.
up by the dive master. Then, what the actual hell? It says, if you don't think it could get worse, dot, dot, dot.
Oh
I'm
no.
confused. Right. It says the following day, A disappeared. And when I say disappeared,
Is that
he
worse or is that better?
vanished. What, that he disappeared? Oh, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know at this point.
Yeah,
And it says he
bye.
told no
Delulu
one.
man.
He packed
Literally.
up his whole house and drove away without a word to anyone. We didn't find out until Connor went over to discuss this week's diving plans to find nothing. But here is where the dilemma comes into play. So, bro, there's the dilemma's still not even here.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. It says
What?
A stole my money. If we are going to
What?
be
What?
accurate, I am owed approximately £2,000. I say
Oh my god.
stolen
Why?
because for the internship, we paid money towards him and the company, which would go towards our rent, agreements, and
Mm.
diving. I paid him for the last couple of months I had, and I wanted to go on this adventure called the Sardine Run. And this is essentially a once in a lifetime experience. And A said he was setting up an intern boat as part of a dive master's plan. So that he wanted us to pay him and he would sort everything out for this trip. We normally paid him for any extra bits like the safari and Turtle Beach, as I mentioned before, but this time it was different. After he left, I found out he never told the dive master about this intern trip, and he never mentioned anything about organizing it. And I was not the only one affected. After he disappeared, we made a group chat, and he had also affected 6 other interns who all wanted to come to South Africa for this trip. And I totaled it up, and he owes everyone over £20,000.
Oh my god. It did in fact go further up south.
It went further up south because £20,000. Like, how can you be this 52-year-old man and essentially stealing money from vulnerable people who just want
Yeah.
experience? But it
And then you're
says,
just running off.
and so she's tried to contact A several times, but he has just vanished and he's not getting back to her. So that is pretty much the email. And then it goes on to say that this happened
Damn.
in 2022. So it was over 2 years ago. And this person that wrote in is still without their money. And so what they are asking is for our advice. It says, so if you girlies have any advice or can potentially put me in contact with the students who are hackers so I can find him, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you lot haven't
Oh
listened,
my
one of our
god.
episodes, there was a student who wanted to hack her boyfriend's computer. So what do you girls think? Because this is actually mad.
Okay, firstly, I'm gonna say thank you very much to the person who wrote this in for starting off our season 2 laboratory with a bang, because what the hell? There
Mm,
is so much to unpack here.
Literally.
First of all, I think the thing that blows my mind the most is the fact that he's like not only high, but he's also drunk, just like all the time. Like that's insane. Like
Hmm.
imagine you just like turn up to your lecture or something, and like your professor is just drunk or like he's high. Like what
yeah,
would you do?
red
Yeah, what would you actually
flags.
do? What would you lot do if you went to a lecture and or if you were on this trip, you're not even in your home
I'd
country.
stay for the entertainment, can't lie.
Yeah, I'm not
But
gonna
if you
lie. I'm not sure I would have trusted a man who was like high and drunk all the time with my money for like an extended trip, unless she like paid like
In
prior.
advance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
because
it
I'm not
already
gonna lie. If
sounds
I
just
saw that,
messy.
I would have been like immediate red flag. I want my money back, and I don't want to carry on the trip with you.
But then it's like you've
But I
got
guess
this
it's hard though
experience
when
and
you're
you're
there, like,
thinking like,
yeah,
yeah,
you've gone all the way there, you spend all of this money, like just because you see him, I'm not gonna lie, just because I saw you high once, I'm not gonna be like, I'm going and like I want my money back and I don't want to do this thing. Like I feel like at that point you're just gonna hope for the best.
Yeah, but
yeah.
like immature, like when he was talking about this imaginary Delulu CCTV that he was talking about, I would immediately be like, "You're clearly not trustworthy. You're like trying to make me pay for your car that I
Yeah,
True,
didn't
but then
break."
maybe, yeah, but then maybe she'd already paid before that,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, like if she already paid, I get it, but I would have also like been like, before you go anywhere, I want my money back because yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, right, if he like was like, "Oh, you pay like you need to fix my car." If he already had her money, surely he would have been like, "Oh, I'm taking that money." I kind of get the indication that like maybe I'm sure she said that it was like an add-on thing, like a bonus thing that she wanted to do.
yeah, it
I don't
was.
know,
But
if it was
still,
me, I wouldn't have done that, like, if I saw these red flags, but obviously it's done now. I appreciate.
exactly. I think that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's done. And I think also being in that situation when you're like, I want to do a new boat trip, I want to do this experience, like this
Mm,
sardine run is obviously something that doesn't happen that often or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's like a once in a lifetime experience. And not gonna lie, like
Yeah.
I did do turtle conservation before and I paid for that trip when I was traveling. And like when you have opportunities presented to you, you're like, well, I'm here, so I may as well just do say
yeah,
X thing,
Definitely.
or like I'll pay to do this extra boat trip. He's got
yeah.
this company. Why would you assume that he's just going to do a runner?
Yeah, you wouldn't. You
But I
definitely would
think
not expect that.
the thing is here is not about like how we would necessarily react in that situation because like Taz said, it is done. But the fact that this company AA and this guy A has stolen money and he's vanished, like what advice can we give? Like do you think there's any way that can banks get that or you've given the money willingly, right? So no, the banks can't do anything.
Yeah, and then if they've just like dissolved their company and disappeared.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
normally if you're scammed out of money, like I guess under false pretenses and stuff like that, like she didn't actually get to do the experience, so that is a scam. Like you can get money back if it's like booked on a credit card and stuff, but I'm assuming like when you're like 19, you don't really have one, right? So, and
Yeah, or it'll be
obviously if
cash
it's
in
like two
hand.
years down the line, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of difficult, like especially if he's just like done a runner and there's not really any way of tracking him down and you're no longer in the same country anymore. Like, yeah, I
Can't
don't know what
lie,
you could
I'd
do.
put him on blast. Like I would literally plaster this everywhere. But then at the same time, like, does he have social media? Like, does it even yeah, like even if you were to literally like go on national TV and tell the whole world about it, like what's it really gonna achieve? Do you know what I mean? Like if he's got rid of his company, then like
Yeah.
I would go full you do need to be put in contact with these hackers because I would go full FBI mode. I'm gonna find what this man is doing because he's obviously doing, like, he's got to be doing something similar, unless he's like completely left the field to become like a drug lord or something. I don't know, but like, I doubt he's just completely. You don't go from one day like managing all of these interns in like South Africa and setting up all of these trips, and then you just randomly disappear and then you just never come back. I don't know, like, he must be doing something still fairly relevant now. So I would
Yeah.
locate this man, find what he's doing, and then I would
Put him
then
on
put him on
blast.
blast. Yeah, rather than
Yeah.
trying to blast AA, because that company is no longer a thing. So I would definitely go, what you need to do is get all of your girls round, get some wine, get some pizza, give everyone, tell them all to bring their laptops and sit down and find out where this man is and what he's doing.
Oh
And
my God,
then
invite
you put him
us.
on blast. Invite us.
That
We
sounds
will
like a
Yeah,
come.
we'll come.
we
I'll fly from
we will
Sydney.
So we could
because
make it a so cultured event. All the
oh
girlies meet up and
oh
find
my God,
A.
hire a place with a hot tub and just all sit and discuss this guy A. I think, yeah, if
Imagine.
you've got social media posting about it, obviously you have provided us with the name, but for purposes of us, like, we can't say that name. If it's
Mm,
already out in the media, if you put this story out there through a journalist, then we're more likely to be able to actually name and shame. Um,
yeah. I think ultimately the thing is, like, it is really frustrating, but it does actually sound like there is nothing that you can do. Like,
no.
if you've
Mm,
contacted your banks and they've said like they can't do anything, they can't help, like, it's
Mhm.
so annoying, but there's literally, unfortunately, just nothing you can do other than just find him, put him on blast,
And
and
make sure he's
yeah.
not
just,
doing it again. Like, you can
yeah, exactly.
make it
And
everyone aware, put it on Reddit, put it on, you could, like, name and shame him in a Reddit post. If anyone else is doing a search, like, "Oh, I found this other internship," like, maybe he set up something somewhere else, they could come across it, or just, like, give as much detail. Um, yeah, I think it's just an absolute, like, situation to be in, and no one should be taken advantage of
mm,
as, like, a volunteer. And I just think that is
mm,
also just really problematic with stuff like marine biology. I don't know, not ideal.
that is, no, that is crazy. I really want to know what he's doing now.
Oh
Mm.
my God, yeah.
Because
Well, invite us to this session and we're gonna
We'll
we're
I also
track
want to know
trackers.
him
what happened to the
down.
car as well. Like, what happened to the car? Did he get it
Oh my God,
fixed? Like,
did he
He's
just
probably
drive
got
off
a
with his car
Lambo
being like,
now.
he's like a major scammer?
what, for 20 grand? Imagine.
Well, if he did that like every other month, you would.
Mm, true. Good
Oh my
point.
God, yeah. He's probably acting like he's really, like, into conservation, protecting sharks, but yet he's just stacking. He's building up he's like, he's getting 20 grand a month from being a
But this is what
scammer.
I'm saying. Like, you actually cannot, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't really act or like pretend that you're really into conservation. You can't pretend that you're really knowledgeable in all of these areas, because like you're taking on masters, PhD students who, like, they'll call you out if
Mm.
it's not actually legit. So it is weird that he does genuinely have this background and like all of this knowledge, and he set up this really cool company and then he just randomly abandoned it. Like, it does actually, I'm not excusing any of his behavior at all, obviously, because what he did is like horrific, but it does make me think, like, are there some deeper issues, like if there's drug use, if there's
Yeah.
alcohol like
Yeah, and maybe
abuse.
he owes people money and he's just in a really, like, difficult situation where he's like, "I can't
Exactly.
afford it." So that's why he's done what he's done. Because
Yeah,
it
but
sounds like he
ultimately you
wasn't.
shouldn't suffer, and like he still should take
Yeah,
accountability for that. So I would still put him on blast.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what
But
we
it
taking
does
from
make me
this?
think.
What's your one piece of advice? Put him on blast and that's it, because the bank isn't gonna do anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would put him on blast, and also, yeah, use the situation to educate other people about
Mm.
these kind of things. Like Taz says,
Yeah.
like, I feel like we instinctively trust not only academics, but also like just people in any position of power, right? Like, you obviously trusted this man wholeheartedly with your money, which is completely understandable. But also, there were like so many red flags. I'm not saying that you ignored them, because we don't know at what point you gave him this money. But I think it does raise like an important point about trusting your gut, trusting your instinct. And if you feel like something is off, just because they're someone who's maybe in a like high power position or they're an academic or anything like that, like if you feel like you can't trust them, or if it's a situation that you shouldn't put yourself in, then trust your gut, trust your instincts.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
just had a thought that, like, tell the universities that you're at so that other people that are
Yeah,
told to do a
definitely.
placement, or
Yeah,
like it's encouraged to do a placement, are aware that these things can happen. Because
exactly.
sometimes when you're looking at placements, you'll get presentations about how to find ones. So maybe that should be something that should be incorporated into discussions surrounding internships.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really think
definitely.
something positive could come from this. Like, our listener could go out and create her own company where other marine biologists can become
Oh my gosh,
interns, and she
yeah.
can create this safe space for like people. Like, you should do it yourself.
Oh my God,
Yeah, cute.
stop. That's goals. I want to
Yeah.
come. I don't
Me
actually
too.
like the water anymore because the stingray thing has really given me a problem. If you're new
Mm.
here, I was stung by a stingray last year and now I don't like the water. So I'm not really a
Great
good marine
marine
biologist.
But
biologist.
we'll all come. We'll all come to help you or support you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be
But
so
yeah.
fun. We could do our own
Mhm.
sardine run.
We could.
Yeah, screw AA.
Even though I
We're
also
gonna
hate the
like
water.
take over his business. Maybe that's a good
Mhm.
outcome. Like, just take all of his business that he would have had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point.
Oh my God, yeah,
Good point.
sorted. Even though I'm assuming you're a student right now, but that's goals. Okay. Well, thank you so much for writing in. I'm really sorry that you have experienced that, but hopefully something positive can come out of it. And
Mhm.
yeah, thank you for listening.
As always, if you have a scandal going on in your life or you want us to discuss it or give you advice, then we do actually have an anonymous link in our Instagram bio. Our Instagram is at So Cultured Podcast, or we have an email, soculturedpodcast@gmail.com.
And thanks so much for listening, and we will see you guys in our next episode next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the So Cultured podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Make sure you listen in next week for more science and tech updates and the hottest laboratea.
You can stay up to date with us in between episodes by following us on Instagram and X at So Cultured Podcast.
See you back here, same time next week.
So give me your all. I'll take it to Mars. Oh, I'll stick like glue inside your mind. Just watch me.